I think we will get started.
Well, let me start the recording because I forgot to last time.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to call the Jamaica Select Board meeting to order for Monday, August 24th. It's just about 7 o'clock. Greg, our chair, couldn't be here and he asked me to chair the meeting, so here we go. I guess I'll call for any late additions to the agenda.
I'd like,
Yes.
well, oh, we have Hamilton Falls already on there. Okay. I don't know. I can talk about Jamaica Old Home Day, some ideas that Ann Brower came to my house today. If she doesn't show up, I can talk about that real quick. And what
All right, we can go down towards public concerns maybe.
Okay, that's fine.
Paul?
Yeah, I'd like to know what the latest is on the sign ordinance issue we had with Muzzies.
Okay, I'll put that down.
Is John here? John's not on the call.
I don't know. Well, we can
So,
talk about that later on, maybe in public concerns, if he's not here. All right. Greg's, the agenda set up to have a conversation with the sheriff
Andy.
first.
there's
Yes?
a couple people wanting additions still.
Oh, sorry.
Bob, Bob.
You hear me all right?
Yes?
Okay. I sent a letter out last Monday, the 17th, to Greg. I didn't realize he was not going to be here at this meeting, asking to have an item put on the agenda regarding to the fire alarm ordinance that we brought up a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
We can discuss it tonight. I don't know if you guys ever got documents viewed on your computers or not. Otherwise, we can skip it till the next meeting if so.
I don't recall seeing anything about that.
Okay.
What's the
I
board's
sent it
put?
to-
What's
I
the
sent it
board?
to Greg, and I guess I was hoping he put it up on your website or wherever you guys put your mails and stuff. So apparently it didn't get done.
Is that the engineering work for, no, that was a different one. Never mind. That's for the bridge.
I don't recall the
yeah.
ordinance coming up but it doesn't mean I didn't get it. What's the board's pleasure? Do you want to wait till the end of the meeting and maybe talk about it?
Well, we can wait till Greg gets back and we can take a look at the email.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to do.
Is that all right with you, Bob?
Again, if you want to postpone it to the next meeting, that's okay with me too.
Okay,
That way it gives you guys a chance to view the documents before we discuss them.
sure.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just on that same topic, what Bob has done is he's taken an ordinance from another town and put Jamaica in where the other town was and made it a little bit more Jamaica specific. So it's a good idea for Saul to look it over.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Terry, did you have something?
I would like to add the municipal tax rate that hopefully you guys will approve it. I put it up on the drive this afternoon. I don't have the homestead education rate yet from the state, but if you approve the municipal rate, then I can get the bills out as soon as I get the state rate.
Okay.
All right.
Terry had mentioned that to me earlier, and she said she would be on the meeting, so.
What folder is that in, Terry?
I put a new folder up. It
Tax rate.
says tax rate,
Yep, got it. Thanks.
be the first one.
Okay.
All right, I guess move on to number 3. It says conversations and questions with Sheriff Anderson, who was kind enough to zoom in on us from, let him tell you what's going on. So I think I'd like to let the sheriff have the floor, and select board could ask him some questions. I kind of, I told him kind of some of the things that we had some concerns about, but we can let him answer them. So it's all yours, Sheriff Anderson.
Thank you very much. For those who don't know me, Mark Anderson, I'm the sheriff of Windham County. I spoke with Andy, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago regarding some concerns that have been raised to various board members or questions that have been asked. I'm going to try and hit off on the ones I remember. I'm going off of memory, so forgive me if I miss one. One issue is speeding on Pikes Falls Road. Once that was brought to our attention, we had one of our speed monitoring or speed feedback carts deployed out there. We've actually had it out there twice now. I believe it's currently there as we speak. We are waiting on collecting the data from that. With that, we can submit to the board a report of issues that we are seeing, times that we're seeing it, days that we're seeing it, as well as ranges of speed. That's a tool that we've used for many years. So I'll go on to say the carts we have are, the oldest one is from 2012. So we've used these with tremendous success, and we're hoping that will bring some insight. We've also deployed deputies out on Pikes Falls Road, as well as on, forgive my lack of Jamaica knowledge right now, I think it's Depot Street, coming
Yes.
off Route 30, going to the skate park. So we've also been monitoring that area, as well as we've received some informal concerns about Route 100, as well as Route 30 in the village. So over the last few months, we've also had a significant increase in graffiti to state infrastructure, bridges and whatnot. So we've been responsive to those issues that have been going on. And then about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, we were contacted by the Department for Forestry, Parks, and something else regarding the issues at Hamilton Falls. The state has contracted with my department to provide services on the weekend. We provide approximately 10 hours per weekend to help with the flow of traffic, help with parking, and help with the governor's executive orders regarding COVID-19. I think that's a quick summary of everything, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions.
Could you speak to in the future, you were telling me about some digital speed signs that you're going to come into be part of your equipment?
Yeah, so my office is the regional coordinator for Windham County for what's known as the Windham County Highway Safety Task Force. It's a grant-funded service that we've provided for many years that uses federal grant funding to obtain both enforcement or hours for enforcement, as well as equipment. Through some bureaucratic hiccups, we kind of missed out on the 2020 equipment funding. It was due to a misunderstanding about how the grant application was supposed to work. We applied in the initial round. It was never communicated to us that we were supposed to apply in a secondary round. So we thought we had already applied. Needless to say, we worked with the granting authority to say, yep, that was our bad. We never communicated that to you. And so they're giving us double what we would normally get starting in October. So what we're looking to purchase, as some may be aware, we have 2 speed feedback trailers. They are a trailer that's towed behind one of our cruisers. We set it up on the side of the road. It has solar panels to help charge the batteries, and it reads out your speed. It's not a surprise. They also have data logging capabilities. The hard problem with them is that they are very large. And so with the size of it, we need to find a place that we can safely park it on the side of the road. Sometimes we find that the places where we want to be able to get the readouts are ultimately in places that we don't have the space to park them on the side of the road due to guardrails or property rights or a river being on the side of the road or whatever it may be. So what we're currently looking at purchasing is pole-mounted speed feedback signs. So these are much smaller, more compact. The other nice thing about them is in the wintertime, we usually remove the actual trailers themselves from the road because we had one get hit by a snowplow several years ago. So we pulled them out of the service in the wintertime to help preserve them and protect them. With these, we anticipate being able to deploy them year round. They are battery powered. I believe they will not be solar powered. Some of that will be based on funding. Some of it's just logistics. But these hook up to any street sign. They have mounting hardware that we purchase and we move them all around. Specifically, we will run them all around the county. We're looking to purchase 4, but certainly Jamaica will be able to take advantage of those signs at no cost.
Thank you. Now, are there board members with questions for the
Yeah,
sheriff?
I've got a question. As far as your stance on the graffiti, Department of Transportation released, their new guidelines, which basically said, well, we're allowing people to chalk and spray paint and all that kind of stuff. What's the sheriff department's view on that? Is it a crime if someone's writing graffiti on a bridge or on the road or whatnot, or how do you guys treat that?
So I don't have a direct opinion on whether or not it is a crime. There's 2 underlying crimes that we are looking at when we deal with graffiti. In the state of Vermont, graffiti itself is not considered a crime. Some towns do pass ordinances for it. I believe at one point Burlington had an ordinance about graffiti. With that being said, the 2 crimes that we investigate, one is unlawful mischief, which requires some sort of damage, and the second would be disorderly conduct, which is a variety of things, but we're looking at it under the guise of in a public place causing rude or tumultuous conduct. Another one would be obstructing traffic. And so with those, we need to evaluate the specific, each specific incident under what is or is not available to us. All the cases that we are currently investigating are still active. We do not have any that have been closed. What we are intending to do, if we are able to identify participants, is ultimately document that and submit it to the state's attorney for an opinion on whether or not a crime has occurred, or if we at least think probable cause for a crime has occurred, for an opportunity for a jury to be able to sort it out if it got that far. I am aware this was a case in Dover. I'm aware of one case that was reviewed by the state's attorney's office, and they were told that no damage occurred, so that case was declined for prosecution. The other issue that we have is that the Agency of Transportation, through their new guidelines, they're not, at this time, they haven't provided us with any statement that damage has occurred or any dollar amount. So we're having trouble trying to satisfy the requirements for justifying a crime to the state's attorney.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that answer.
I actually just want to add on one more thing. My office isn't responsible for being the evaluator of free speech. We treat these, regardless of message, we treat them the same. We evaluate the conduct that occurred and ultimately try to make the assessment off of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Come on.
Paul has Paul's hands up.
Oh.
And then Jessica. You can call him, Andy. I see stuff.
Oh, okay. How about Jessica?
So I was just hoping to get a little bit more of an update on Hamilton Falls. We did hear at the last meeting, and I've heard in the interim, just some really upsetting stories about some of the visitors there. And I know that this is a multi-pronged effort, but wanted to hear how you feel that it's going and what you're hearing from the community.
You know, that's a great question, which I would love to answer for you, but I can't tonight, simply because I don't know what happened on the last weekend in terms of the work we did for the state. I am aware that there's concerns about parking. That was communicated to me. My office received no complaints from residents regarding Hamilton Falls, so it was actually the first opportunity for me to hear about an issue was from the Department for Parks and whatever else they are, forestry. So that was my first awareness of it. I do have a deputy who primarily works in town who would actually probably be able to speak more intelligently about it because people might have reported it to him informally, and he would act on that just as he observes issues, and that's where the reporting would come from. Another issue that we were hearing concerns about was trash in the falls. That's been a consistent issue through all the swimming holes in Windham County. We've been monitoring all of them. The hard part is that swimming holes are open and we can only commit so many of the town's resources to be able to provide coverage to those areas as well as other areas. And My follow-up to that is if I could speak to you, or if somebody could speak to you about any of the follow-on concerns that you've had, or if you want to share them now, I'd be happy to communicate them to my staff. We just need to know about it.
Thank you. Paul, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a couple quick ones, but before I go on, the letter that Charlie Peck sent us, delineating the problems that he and his neighbors have discussed. Apparently at this stage, the plans, there's a discussion about having a group session with the Sheriff's Department and with us and with Windham, a number of other people to discuss the parking. That according to this letter I received today, they've pretty much narrowed the parking down around the park, I guess it's a park, I don't know, whatever the attraction is, down to about 5 spaces because they belong to private property, and they've got it down to about 5. And my understanding is that obviously isn't enough for people, and that I think one of the sheriffs had been up there, among other things, suggesting people, according to this letter, go to Pikes Falls if they couldn't find a place to park up at the Windham Falls. So the question there is, A, can we not do that? But more importantly, how are we managing the parking issues on Pikes Falls around the same thing, where we have people crowding the right of way and getting into Pikes Falls? If that's something that's on the radar. I know for sure I saw 2 cars go by today, so I know they're patrolling Pikes Falls, but I'm not sure exactly what they can do up there. And I'm wondering if Sheriff Anderson has any thoughts on that.
So this would be, I'm going to answer your question with a question. Does the town of Jamaica have an ordinance on parking?
Aside from don't park on the traveled ways, which I think is a state ordinance?
Correct. The state law. So
State law.
If the town doesn't have an ordinance specifically, then we're only going to enforce state law, and I'd be happy to explain that. If it does, I'm just personally not aware of it, but I'd be happy to review it and offer any suggestions if they needed, or communicate them to my staff. We just don't have a copy of it that I'm aware of.
So
Do we need to then
it looks like we do have a parking ordinance.
If we have an ordinance, I mean, do we need an ordinance that overlaps with the state law about not parking on the traveled throughway?
No.
Okay, so that's sufficient to engage for you guys.
Just looking at, Paul, thank you. I didn't see Charlie's follow-up letter, but just taking a quick peek at it, it does look like there is a traffic ordinance, and I think we can get back to the sheriff on that. And Charlie has done, what he's focusing on is to get to you, the sheriff and your staff, kind of concrete information around what parking is in fact allowed. At Hamilton Falls, it looks like it's about 5 spots, and my recollection is it's about the same at Pikes Falls. And that what he was observing is that that information was not crisp and wasn't handed to your staff as well as it could be. So I think the onus is a little bit on us now to get to you what that exact information is. So we should do that. Does that jive with your understanding of the letter, Paul?
Well, I was talking about Pikes Falls, but the letter should apply, I think, to both.
The letter, yeah, he addresses both because, his property is adjacent to Hamilton Falls. So he's basically identifying the information with respect to both locations. So I think we can follow up and get you that precise information with respect to both locations.
There is, in this letter from Ethan Phelps, some pertinent information on what is, have you all read that? So I don't have to read it and waste everybody's time. Just about what Windham, the Sheriff's Department, the forest, what are they, rangers, whatever they do, they're all coordinating to work on this. And this began August 15th and will continue through early October. That's probably the sheriff's contract. And this is from Ethan Phelps from the Department of Parks and Recreation, something like that. I hope to expand coverage hours as soon as Sheriff Anderson is able to get back to me. We will be engaging in the appropriate contracts both in Jamaica and in Windham in the near future about the possibilities and limitations of patrols and parking on the town highways to this site. In addition, we're in the process of organizing a meeting between neighbors and FPR representatives. We understand that these steps will not completely solve all the issues, but we hope they will begin to address them in near term. That's, the gist of it. It goes on about a couple other things, but. So that's from the boss of the parks.
Right. Right. And Charlie's letters 2 days after that, and he was just saying he appreciates he could see it already happening.
Yes.
But one thing that was clear from the communications out from the various individuals who were helping was that it wasn't clear to them where people could or could not park.
Okay.
So Charlie's just saying, here's the ordinance. Here's where they can, my understanding is where they can park. I think we just have to confirm that, and then we can coordinate with the sheriff and provide that information.
Okay.
Andy?
Before I take any questions from the public,
Yeah.
did anyone want to ask about extending, or I talked to the sheriff about what would the deal be if we wanted to add hours on or increase our coverage? So maybe Sheriff, you could speak to that, or one of the board members could ask a question concerning that. We talked about that, maybe increasing the hours for traffic control.
So I'd be happy to yield to a question from a board member, but shortly after our conversation, just for your awareness, I spoke with someone from the town of Londonderry who might also be interested in a co-op relationship that we've managed in other towns. So very beginning conversation. I don't want to act like there's any plans in works, but it was a quick phone call of what is the possibility. So if that is a possibility, there might be some more efforts we can do, but I'll be happy to answer a question.
So if I may, I'd put the question to you. Does our current contract make it difficult for your people to be able to attend to these problem areas and still make the routine patrols? Does that constrict the hours so that can't be done, that we need to expand the hours, or just reallocate the hours we already have?
I think it's an issue. That's a tough question to answer because ultimately we're talking about a resource, and with any finite resource, the more you expend on one area, you're not going to have it on another area. So we can continually move the resource itself around, and there comes a question of capacity. So are we dealing with short-term issues? To a degree with swimming holes, I would say yes, but are we going to deal with them seasonally? Yes. Are we seeing an increase in call volume, or does the town prefer to receive services from us, or feel like it's being underserved in law enforcement? Those are questions I can't necessarily answer. So that's where I think a discussion around what the services are and what you need would be valuable. I have a personal opinion, which I'd be happy to share, which is that rural Vermont has an extremely low level of policing. I received many complaints about people who called for law enforcement help only to wait an hour or 2 hours or 6 hours or 3 days. So that's where the question of what services does the town want and the affordability of that. So one of the objectives I've been trying to do, especially in other towns and working hybrids and relationships mutually between towns, is to say we have limited resources, both my department as well as the taxpayer and the towns themselves. So how do we use everyone collectively to make this work more effectively? Do I think Jamaica needs more time? Personally, yes. But I understand reasons for saying, well, we're comfortable where we're at.
So then let me ask you along that same thing. We've got scheduled coming up within the next week or so, first or second week of September. I've been talking to Windham Regional about doing a traffic study on Pikes Falls Road. As it happens, you just put your radar trailer right where we're going to eventually put up the the tubes. So generally speaking, you can see that radar sign as soon as you come around a corner. So as soon as that's visible and it starts setting off your radar detectors, people get the message. That's going to really make our study a little bit difficult, because by the time it hits the tubes, so what we're trying to do while we're working this out is come up with some good data.
Sure.
So that we can come to you with data saying, these are the hours, these are the speed variations, and make that something part of the discussion. So we have something more than subjective ideation about how this is going on.
So our trailer also collects data like the tubes do. When we talk about a traffic study, especially for the purposes of establishing a speed limit, we generally try not to use the trailer. The goal is, when you do it, to have no influence whatsoever. And so our trailer has a bright light that comes on. One of them has a blue light that flashes at you if you're speeding. So that would be considered something that would bias the data. So we placed the cart there at someone's request. I don't remember who at this point. That was at Andy's request. So I'm certainly happy to ask for it to get removed in light of the tubes getting put out there. I think it was just put in there 2 days ago. So we can get it removed, but for enforcement purposes, we're not really concerned about bias, because the data is captured before a person's able to react to the speed. So with that being said, there's a bit of a delay for the signboard to get it after the data is already logged. So we get the true speed initially. And for us, that's good enough for targeting enforcement time. And again, I'm happy to share that data once we have it.
Thank you.
And if the board's pleasure would be to have the box moved to another street, you could tell me and I could relay that to the sheriff's department.
Right over on Depot Street. I mean, if
Yeah,
there's problems there, we know, you know.
as long as
Gotta
it's
find a
one or
spot
the
for
other
it.
location, right?
We're going to have the tube set up on Depot Street and Pikes Falls Road.
Oh, okay, okay.
gotta
Well,
both
then
set
maybe pull it then for now.
So as soon as, Andy, as soon as I hear from WRC exactly when they're going to get, the equipment's being used at other towns right now. We're number 3 on the list. So as soon as I know when that is, I'll let you know, and then we can discuss about moving the trailer out of the way of that particular study.
But that was where we wanted it a few weeks ago. We were
Yes.
really getting some complaints there, and I'm grateful that it's there now.
Yes.
And as long as it can be, personally. Any other questions for the sheriff from the board?
If we're not, just one quickly, if we're not going to use it, because if we're not going to use it either at Pikes Falls Road or on Depot Street, because we're going to have the tubes doing a longer study, there is still a lot of concern about Route 30 in the village.
Right.
If we could have it, at the base of the hill entering, the bridge, that location, that's been highly problematic. In fact, I've noticed this weekend there was definitely some speeding tickets issued. So I just wouldn't want to lose it if we can have it for a bit, because everyone in town has obviously been very, very upset.
I will say, at the intersection of Water Street and Route 30, or right across from the fire department, that's a post-Irene construction. That's a very tough place for us to place it. Now, we've looked at it before. One of the hard things with the trailer is that we do have to aim the radar, and so with the hill and the way all of that comes together, it's just a tough spot. Back when it was more of a slope there, and the turn was not as perpendicular to the road, we were able to get it in there. That's the main reason right now. So hopefully these new signboards will help us with that problem.
Along that line, I would defer to the fire chief here, but is it possible to use the edge of the parking lot of the fire department, as long as we're not running over it with fire trucks? No.
No, the guardrails block it too much.
Okay. We'll think of something.
Anyone else from the board? It seemed like we had a lot of questions there for a while. Are they getting answered, or? I don't want to keep the sheriff up too long.
Not a question, just a comment. Thank you. It's nice to know that when we put out a request, we get this kind of a response from you guys. you know, I think the sheriff's department's done a pretty darn good job over the years I've been here, but having your response to our request this easily and this quickly is a real asset. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that I mentioned to the sheriff that on our last bill, or they give us a printout of what they done in the last cycle, that I said we noticed that there were no tickets written out and a couple of warnings. And instead of me repeating what you told me, could you just speak to that a little bit?
I wish I could. I just don't remember the answer.
Well, I think you said that Jamaica has a lot of days where it's real calm, and then some aggravated speed may come through, and you know, we can't be there all the time, that kind of thing. And I've mentioned, and it doesn't go over too good, that the presence of the sheriff's department in the past few years has cut down the amount of tickets some. I mean, does that make any sense? Or we know there's speed in every town, but.
So, yeah, there's Jamaica. I mean, I think all of you are more attuned to it than I am, but this is my experience having worked patrol in Jamaica. It's very seasonal. Come June and July, there's a lot less traffic as compared to, say, January, February, and for obvious reasons. Not to say that there's no traffic, but it also, like a person's work schedule, we see traffic schedules vary as the seasons vary. So for several years, we tried an approach where we actually reduced patrol hours in the summertime and increased hours in the wintertime. So it was almost like a camel's hump. There was some benefit to that. It sounded good, but also didn't necessarily work as well as we had intended. There was times where we lost a staff member or something, and then trying to play catch up in the time we were supposed to be doubling down was harder for us. So at least having a consistent contract across the year is easier in that regard. But going back to talking about resources, where do we apply them and how do we do that? That's an issue. To the point of speed and seeing things cut down, I think that's a good thing we're seeing it slow down. Now the question is the slowdown a reduction in vehicles' true speed, which is what things like using the tubes and our radar cards and things like that would help us detect, versus a slowdown in issuance of violations. One of the issues that we had specific to this year and specific to COVID was we put out guidance for keeping our staff safe. Motor vehicle contacts, we would have a lot of contact with a lot of people, which make contact tracing an issue. Not to say that we wouldn't be able to do contact tracing, but for a deputy to be involved in 10 to 20 motor vehicle stops in a given week, if they were exposed to COVID, they could be creating a lot of community spread. So we were trying to come up with rules and ways to do that. I take responsibility and ownership for it. I miscommunicated something. People thought they weren't supposed to stop cars at all for a short period of time. Was not my intent. It was to say we're not stopping cars that had expired registrations and expired inspection stickers, because the DMV extended all those dates out. So it was one of those things that was half heard or half communicated. And at the end of the day, once we realized it, we retrained the guidance and recommunicated what the concerns were and what we weren't concerned about. So there was a period where you probably saw no traffic stops whatsoever, and it's just because interpretation of the rules was unique.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from board members? I really am hesitant to open it to the public unless it's real pertinent to help the sheriff with a couple of the things we've been talking about, like Hamilton Falls. Or any other questions? Did someone, I will do it just for a person or so. Did someone have a question for the sheriff real quick, or a concern from the public? Hi.
Hi, I will just say that I thought that they were, this is partly to Paul also, I thought that the deputy was telling them to go down to Jamaica State Park and walk in. So that's really what they should be telling them. I'm surprised to hear they were telling them to go to Pikes Falls. I just wanted to make that comment.
That was pointed out to me by the letter I got from Charlie Peck. So that's secondhand information for me, but that's in the letter.
Regardless of whatever the statement was made, we'll make sure we're directing them to the state park. I'll get that out.
And I can tell you that the state park is telling them they don't know how to get to Pikes Falls with a vehicle, and they're saying, want them to work for it and take the trail up. So that's what I heard today. I went down there. They said they've seen the sheriffs in the park more. They've complained to the sheriffs about speed on Depot Street. And while this extra contract is in place, I worked on my own house. I live on Depot Street this week, and I saw quite a bit of sheriff department activity going back and forth on our road.
I've seen that too on Water Street as well. I've seen the sheriff around.
I expect part of that is because they're checking out the park, plus doing their regular stuff. So we appreciate that. And if there's nothing else, let the sheriff go here. And thank you for your time. I know that you're a busy guy. I'd let you say what you were doing, but that, you know, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And for anybody who wants to follow up on Hamilton Falls, if you call my office, 365-4942, Paul Samatero, he's my captain. He's well aware of everything that's going on in both the town of Jamaica as well as with the state, and he'll be the person to make sure that it gets communicated to the right people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Thanks again.
Take care, Mark.
Okay, within the regular stuff, review the timesheets for the town office, listers, and highway and transfer station. Terry put that up, I believe. I looked at them, but in review number 5, review the pay orders. You know, if anyone's got an issue with something, we can talk about that at the end of the meeting. Updates and discussion regarding town operations. Has anyone got anything on that?
We never approved the minutes from August 10th, Andy.
Yep, I skipped that. Number 2. Thank you.
That's my job, man. I'm here to.
Thank you.
You did the same thing for me, Andy.
I do.
Well, I was so excited
I try to keep on top of things.
I was so excited the sheriff was coming. I just skipped right over that baby.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from August 10th meeting. Second?
Second motion.
Okay, is there any discussion about that?
Yes, there is. There's some confusion if you look, those of you who have it in hand. The first page, there was a question about the internet contracts for the signs and whether they were paying for the one time of software, or if we're doing an internet connection over a period of time. And I don't see Terry. Uh-oh.
It was my understanding it's a one-time thing with the ones that Terry got, yes.
Well,
One-time software.
The other one had an internet contract. It looked like about $1,500 a year.
That's correct. That's the new quote, yes.
Yeah.
My understanding, and Terry can answer if she's, yeah. Am I correct in that, Terry?
I believe it's just a one-time charge, but I can check with him again.
Yeah.
I wasn't really aware that I was supposed to do that, but that's what I understood from my first conversation with him. The guy I talked to about the sign.
I'm looking at the one from All Traffic Solutions, and it says APP, I assume application, traffic suite, 12 months.
Yeah.
Management reporting image that goes through.
That's a yearly cost that you pay every year. You have the equipment, but you have to pay the cost for the software. So it may be that that's how the other one works too. It wouldn't surprise me. That's generally how companies keep a revenue stream.
So what are you looking to do with the minutes? What do you want to?
I wasn't clear. It says we're speeding, but there's also an internet contract that you must buy, and I wasn't sure what that was attached to. It was not clear to me, because then it says about $1,000 more each and $350 a year for the software. But the software was a one-time charge and the internet was another charge, and I just got all these things together today and I'm trying to make sense out of it, and I was hoping Terry could clarify that. before we,
Oh.
Yes, but what in the minutes do we need to correct?
well, that was the question. In the minutes, what was accurate? What do we need to do with that? Whether that was correct or if that was, got confused in the conversation.
Well, I would say that would be for another time, because we
Right.
should pull all three of those prices together and try to get apples to apples so that you guys can really look
Okay.
at them the same way. And that would be for the next meeting,
Okay.
because I don't,
I'm looking
I
at my
didn't do it
notes.
this
This is what we
afternoon.
said in the meeting, so I think the minutes are accurate, but we could follow up.
Right.
Any more discussion about that? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as they are?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
Before you move on, we did not, I don't believe, approve the minutes of the special meeting on the 6th
We
of April.
did. We did that last.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda, that's correct, but it was part of the minutes.
No, I thought we approved those at the 10th meeting of the 10th.
I don't believe so. It references
Oh.
them. It
I
says
don't
there was a
think- have they
special
I don't
meeting.
think there were minutes. There were no minutes taken.
There were no minutes. There were no minutes.
That's
no
why
minutes
we didn't.
taken?
No. I don't believe so. I don't know. I
Well,
don't.
Now,
I don't
actually, that may be on my plate. I have to go back and look at my to-dos. Paul, that might be on my plate to produce minutes for that meeting.
I think Jessica said that she would look at the tape and draw
Yes.
some minutes from them.
Okay, thank you.
So that's on my plate. That's on my to-do list.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay.
All
So we
right,
So we can get those next week, next meeting?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay, good.
absolutely. It
Thank you
fell
very
off, I'm sorry, it fell off my, my plate.
Thank you.
all right, thanks. Move on to number 7. Discuss plan to address speeding and safety issues in town, including A, the Windham Regional Commission speed study, B, crosswalks repainted on town roads, C, review quotes to purchase and install electronic speeding signs, D, discuss extensions to the current sheriff's contract. So which one of these, I guess A needs to be spoken to?
All right, I had a conversation with Jeff Nugent about the speed study and how to make it happen. We are now on his list. We're number 3. I think their equipment's in Dummerston right now, and it's going to go one more town. It should be in Jamaica either the 1st or 2nd week of September. Now, there's been a glitch that's appeared that may also have something to do with painting crosswalks. Today, the yellow striped line down the middle of the Pikes Falls Road, which is to be repaved, was painted. So I don't know what's that going to do to our painting options on the other side, but if in fact they're going to start doing a pavement, repave the Pikes Falls Road the same time we try to do a speed study, that's not going to work. So we've got some ifs that just appeared today.
Well, we'll have to see how that plays out. You know, usually my experience of being in on paving contracts or looking at them, they're always a little bit more behind than they say they're going to be, but hopefully I don't tick anyone off for making that comment, but then that might be a good thing this year. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
We'll see what happens. I think, Terry, did you have information about when it might get paved?
I believe it's the middle of next month. Now, they've put it off again because they are, let's see, Keith said there's 2 other towns that they have to do Brookline, and there was another one. So I think he's talking about the middle of September.
Okay.
So perhaps we can get the speed study done before you can try.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder now if that means that we're gonna have to have it striped after it's paved, if we want the lines done. They usually send out an email and say, are you paving this year? And if you are, let us know when, and we won't do the yellow line until you're done. But I didn't,
Done that.
yeah, that's every year that usually comes.
Yeah.
But I didn't see one this year, so.
Well, do you have anything else to say about the speed study, Paul?
That's where we are. Several at noon, I could tell you it was going to happen the first or second week of September. Now I'm not so sure.
Okay. All right. If there's no questions about that, how about B, the crosswalks being repainted on town roads? I remember when we got the bids on that, the kid that did them on our road, on our intersection here. I mean, he uses line paint and everything. It was like 1/3 less than what the other guy wanted. And I know that the lines have faded. I
Yeah.
just think that they just fade. I mean, I think we should look into some bids, but I think we can only get 2 bids last year.
I mean, I've seen these crosswalks where it's like really thick paint, and they last quite a long time. Those were just painted like paint.
I watched him do it.
I was there too.
It's
Yeah.
like parking lot line paint.
Yeah, exactly. That's not like have you ever seen the thick? It's almost,
Yeah,
it has some depth to it.
The state, when they did the one by Jamaica House, I mean, that one, I think the state does those, and they seem to last a while. But I can't remember the last time that was repainted. So I'm not sure how we want to go about getting that to happen.
Terry's waving.
So the last time we had them done on Depot Street on Pikes Falls, it was $475, and that was last fall.
Yeah,
Almost a
it wasn't
year
that long ago.
It was about a year ago, and we had gotten 2 bids. So the first one that we went with was $475. I just happened to find the other one the other day, and it was $2,200.
Okay.
So we could have them painted almost 3 times over for the same price as the other one. And the $475 is the local guy. It's Bill Joyce from Townsend. The other one was from somebody in Brattleboro.
Now, how do we go about getting? When do they do Route 30? All that, that crosswalk.
Well, that would be something you would have to check with Megan or Mark or somebody from the district.
I can tell you one thing I read or heard on the news. It may have something to do with what we're talking about. That may not happen because the state is the transportation. DOT is always the first fund to get rated. I remember hearing that, but they're low on money, so that's why they're not cutting back the shrubbery and the growth on Route 30. And I don't think they're going to this year by the sounds of it. So if we're hoping that they're going to stripe those lines, they might if we ask them, but just some information. I don't know if that helps at all.
So I would definitely encourage having it done less, the less expensive, to Terry's point, but just to, rather than do it immediately before the winter necessarily, do it in the spring. But I think we should go ahead. It's not that much money. We could go ahead with the less expensive one.
I would kind of move to have that done after we get the paving done so we can do all of them at the same time.
Right. That would be spring though. The paving's done this fall, so.
Right.
It
Oh,
could
he
still
could
be
do
done
it.
this
We would
fall.
hope.
You can do it right after the paving's done.
Yeah.
That paint's pretty forgiving weather-wise. So should we line him up now or?
Do we got to put a motion in?
Have we decided whether we want them to paint the horizontal, the 3 stripes as they come into town, add that to the contract?
I think that's a good
Falls.
idea. If we're allowed to do that, are we allowed to do that on a state highway?
Well, no, I can't speak to Route 30, but we can certainly do it on our highways.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could do it there.
You could do it up on South Hill. We could do it on Pikes Falls. Theoretically, we could do it. I'm not sure exactly where, but on Depot Street.
I don't know where you do it on Depot. That's the
The
thing.
awkward place to put it. Oh, there's Bob. He's waving at us. You're muted,
That's all
Bob.
I'm saying.
I know. Depot Street, you could do it just as you go past the church, as you start down the hill. Because basically that's what you're trying to pick up is the people picking up their speed as they're coming down the hill. The other one would probably be just after the schoolyard coming back towards town.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just after the bridge for the people coming out of the park before they get to the school. By the way, I was looking this over. There is no signage from the bridge coming towards town,
No.
either speaking to a speed limit or to a school zone.
Interesting.
You come off that bridge and nobody knows, if they're not local, what they're dealing with. Now, probably in theory, the park wasn't used as much during the school seasons and might not have been a big deal, but we should think about that as well, I think.
The signs are cheap. We could get the signs that say school, whatever they say.
School crossing or school
Yeah.
school zone.
Yeah.
I think we should just do that. I don't know why this wouldn't be there.
I was surprised.
Why we wouldn't have 25-mile-an-hour speed signs there, or 20 if the school's in progress.
And aren't we entitled to refresh the crosswalk across Route 30 in the village? Because it is a crossing zone? Or we?
I believe that's the district would have to do that
Ah,
That's a
because it's a
V-Trans-
state highway. But
V-Trans
we can
question.
ask Mark or Megan or somebody from the district.
I think
So
that
what-
would be worthwhile.
What are we going to act on this at all? Are we going to approve, or should we wait? Terry, can you get the new quotes with the lines painted?
I can get the quotes, but for that amount of money, even, it's under the threshold for the procurement policy. So
Okay.
I don't really think we have to get quotes. If you want to go ahead, I would just say,
Well, I'm just saying, how much it's going to be if we paint those lines on Pikes Falls and we paint the lines on Depot Street.
so if you approved it tonight and said, not more than $1,000 to do the lines and the crosswalks, then we could have him just do it if it's under $1,000.
I'll
Or
make
at
that
least-
motion. How about that?
I'll second that motion.
So is
Now
there
we
a
can
first and a
discuss it.
second? Is there a
Jessica
motion?
seconded it.
I
Okay.
motioned it. She seconded it. Jessica.
So
All
let's,
right, who, and
All wants to
Terry,
discuss.
so discussion, I got,
we need to be
Terry
more
will try,
specific.
Terry will try to define what we want him to do. And yes, Paul?
Oh, I think we need some more specificity. We want to put 3 horizontal lines on Pikes Falls, on South Hill coming down into Pikes Falls, and on Depot Street coming
At
away
both
from the
ends.
bridge.
I agree with Bob. When you get close to the school, past the school, between Bob's house and the school, is really where they speed up. I was walking down there yesterday. They come over that bridge nice and slow, but as soon as they get past, when people walk in there by that field, they just take off. And
Then
I
your
think that's where you have to slow them down.
Your suggestion would be to put those 3 lines at the school zone.
Near the
side.
school, maybe right past, or even maybe right past, what's his face? What's the lane? Shoot, I can't think of the name. Warden Road.
Warden Road.
Warden
Maybe
Road.
past that, or maybe back in the middle of the school. So as you pass the first driveway and then you hit that, you get the second. I mean, it's somewhere in there. I think would be the best spot, just from my observations.
Right, you can't make a mistake. I mean, it's gonna elevate, attention and awareness, whether it's at the first drive or the second drive or in between, it's gonna work. And I also agree with Bob saying, as you're coming down into Depot Street from Route 30, just by the church, that's a logical place where people cross, etc. It does make sense there as well.
So then for the motion we're talking about today, we want 1 set of stripes on Pikes Falls coming into town up
Yep.
near where it starts. Another set of stripes, 2 sets of stripes on Depot, one at the, where Bob was suggesting, another one for the school zone.
And one coming down the hill out of South Hill.
Yeah,
You
South
go
Hill,
around the turn.
Pikes Falls, and 2 on Depot Street. That's 4 sets of.
4 sets of
horizontal
lines,
stripes,
yes.
And the
Included,
crosswalk.
and
included with the crosswalks, exactly.
And they are Depot, Pikes Falls,
South
does
Hill.
Water
2 on
Street have?
Depot, 1 on Pikes Falls, 1 on South Hill, coming down that hill.
Yeah.
On that corner.
Okay, so then crosswalks.
Yep.
Uh,
On the intersection of Water and Depot Street.
Same place.
And
they are.
Pikes Falls, right at the Jamaica house, right?
Is that one of ours or is that done by 30?
That's ours. No,
right.
that's
That one would
ours.
be ours
Okay.
because it's on Pikes Falls.
All right.
But with respect to the ones on Route 30, the crosswalks, who is?
So I will send a message to Megan, who's the tech for the district, and also Mark, and
Okay.
just see what they have to say.
Thank you.
Um,
That's perfect.
Okay.
And
All
if
right,
they say, you can go ahead and do it, but you gotta pay for it, then I'll let you know that. And if they say, no, we're gonna do it, or no, you can't, then I will let you know that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion's on the table.
All right. Is there any other discussion with the board? I don't know if I can take a
Can't
comment
take
from public
no,
right
you
now.
Can't take a public call after we
Um,
put a motion.
all those in favor of striping the bottom of South Hill, the end of Pikes Falls Road, somewhere between the school,
And the bridge.
is there two sets of stripes down there or one?
One set there, one set
Okay,
set
and
stripes at the hill coming into town. Up
Okay,
Depot
so
Street.
two
coming
on
down.
Depot Street.
Okay.
Terry will tell them where.
That
And
would
the
be under
crosswalks,
$1,000.
all in favor of that, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. That passes. Okay. Says, review quotes to purchase and install electronic speeding signs.
So I got the third quote today. It's more apples to apples with what Terry had, and comes in. So I did some calculation. If we were to get the 6 signs instead of just the 4 with Terry's quote, it's 23,700. My quote, I think that I got was like 27,000. And then the cheaper option at 15,000 are the machines that don't have any software. All it is a sign that flashes if they're going too fast. So that's why it's a lot cheaper. So that's not really apples to apples, but it gives us an option. If we didn't want to get the software, if we don't want to bother with all that, we have that option. Then we have these other 2 options for the machines that have all the internet and you get statistics and everything else. So
I would like to put this off until we get the data back, till we know for sure what we need to do.
Any other comments on these slides, besides what I got to say?
I'm a little uncomfortable. I mean, I hear, Paul, what you're saying, but this has been a perennial problem. This board, I think, has diligently been pursuing this, but we've been pursuing this for a few months. When you look at our overall budget, even the more expensive signs would represent, even just a very small part of our highway budget. So I'm just feeling a little pressure to say, I don't know that I want to wait, I don't think this board should necessarily wait 2 to 3 to 4 more months to make this decision.
I agree with you on that too. I think we've dragged our feet for a number of years. And I think if we only went with the 4 signs too, and if we just did what we owned, and we don't do the ones on Route 30 necessarily right now, but we do the ones on Depot, we do the one on Pikes Falls. I don't know if there'd be 2 on Pikes Falls because no one's coming out of town and speeding, are they? Is that a problem?
The biggest problem is coming in.
Coming in. So maybe we get 3 or 4. So I mean, that reduces even more the cost. If we're looking at 3,600 plus 350, what's $39.50 per device on Terry's quote, which is really, I think, the ones we want to get. We get 3 of them, that's 10 grand.
I'm more in
Are those
favor
the
of that.
ones- Are those the ones that collect data or not?
They do collect data. The
All right.
question that's what Paul was asking about, do we have to pay it through the 350 yearly? It's still cheaper than the 1,500 yearly from the quotes I got today. So,
All right, and then the benefit of collecting the data would be to direct the sheriff's department to
Yeah.
write tickets or,
yeah, no, give me something to do in my spare time.
but bear in mind also what we heard from the sheriff about the smart charts and the availability of a couple of signs, I'm not trying to get out of buying signs. I think we need them. But if the board thinks we need the data,
I think I don't think it's a bad idea to have that. I think, then that's our traffic study,
Exactly.
Next
Then
year
you
it's our
could
traffic
change
study.
things.
And so Terry, yours was, if we just went with the 4 signs, it's $15,000, 15,800. But if we dropped it down, and I don't know if there's a price break on these things, if you drop it, if we dropped it just to 3, sign coming in from Pikes Falls and 1 on each end of Depot Street, then it's going to be even less than that. It's going to be about $12,000 or 11,000 some. So,
Well, certainly the money is in the reserve account. So if you get 4, that way you have, if you wanted to move them, you get 2
Yep.
on each end somewhere.
that's a good point.
And I will also, when I'm asking the district about the crosswalks, I will ask them about putting those on Route 30 as well. Because I would think that would be a deterrent for people on Route 30. I know when I drive through Saxon's River and that thing flashes at me, I slow down. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just saw when I was where at Dover, South Newfane today, and they have one over there. I was so shocked.
Probably, I don't think
Nice.
Dover has any, but South Newfane may.
All right. Well,
So
I'm
I
gonna
would
make a
say to get
motion.
the 4.
Yep.
And then you have an even amount for a road if you decide to move them.
I agree. I'm going to make a motion that we purchase the 4 signs from Marlin Controls so that we can place them at sites that that the board will decide on. But, be it Depot Street, Pikes Falls, for the amount of $15,800.
Okay.
I second that motion.
okay, is there any further discussion?
I
I just,
rather not spend the money till we have the data, but that's me.
we can get that data still, I guess. But do we have to find out, are we going to be able to stab those things in the ground or wherever we want, or
Well,
because there are roads, or aside from
own-
Route 30?
Do
can
we
put them
own?
wherever we want?
Yeah, the question would be property rights. I mean, yeah, we have to figure that out.
Well, if they're in the right of way, within the highway right of way, I mean, it's just like putting a street sign in.
Okay.
No different than putting a street sign in.
I just actually looked at this for another town, so Terry is exactly right. We do have quite a bit of flexibility.
But I think we need to talk with the neighbors too and say, hey, where should we put it that's not going to
Yeah, you don't want it
necessarily
flashing
you want it
in
in
their
the right
bedroom
spot,
at
but you don't want to
midnight.
flash in someone's
Absolutely.
kitchen door every time someone drives by either. So I think that there needs to be some discussion. on it.
Agree, but also the providers typically have good recommendations as well, and they typically do provide some guidance, and we can even press them for some free, recommendations and engineering.
And that company is sort of local. They're out of Massachusetts, so I'm sure that they would be able to give us some insight.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of purchasing 4 speed signs? I don't have the dollar amount written down.
$15,800.
Have you got that, Sarah?
It's on the tape.
All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, 3-1. That passes. All right. Okay, I guess the sheriff schooled us a little bit on extensions to the current sheriff's contract. You want to discuss that? Do we want to add to that, leave it alone for a while? I just would like to say that till October, according to this letter, that we're gonna have more sheriffs around checking out the park. I know they're entering the park this way and they're going up and trying to handle our problem. We lucked out there, if you ask me. We would have had to add some patrols in this contract into the Windham, the Pikes Falls problem. So, I mean, there's other things going on, but are we looking to add on to that? Bearing in mind that we have done something about the traffic with these signs?
Well, that's what I would say. I think we definitely took some action today with the lines, with the signs. I think let's get those installed and let's see what happens. And maybe we don't need to spend any more money with the sheriff's department.
And I think
I
my
think it's
comment
reasonable.
to my
We just made a
comment to the
$16,000 investment. So I think we need to see how that plays out before we decide to give the sheriff's office another $10,000 a year.
And I think that if we did want to increase the sheriff's department contract, that maybe after the signs and things, that might be something for town meeting, if it's going to be a big bump, and get some input from other people about why or why not. Does that sound all right, that we leave it alone?
I think baby steps. Let's take small steps rather than going
Yeah.
massive.
I agree.
I got a feeling that you're going to see, because I asked the sheriff why they weren't writing any tickets, that we're going to be seeing some tickets written. And just in his defense, a state trooper, a sergeant, lives across from my mother, and I talk to him from time to time, and he said the same thing, that during COVID, especially on the interstate, that they were not making contact with people unless they were in triple digits. Then they were going to have a conversation, but I'm sure that's changed now. But so they were pulling over less people for lesser speed, under 100. But anyway, so no, I think that's a good idea to leave it, and sort of a blessing that the Park Service added on that extra law enforcement. That's going to help us, I think. So, okay. If there's no more discussion about that, how about public concerns? Anyone from the public like to be heard? They all gone? Hi, Hazel.
They're still there. Hazel's there. John's still there.
Hazel, you waving to me? You're muted.
Ron Kelly, I don't know. They're not. They maybe walked away. Ronnie's still there. No, it's just dark.
Where'd Hazel go? I think she's.
I'm here.
He's there.
Hi, Hazel.
Hi. Given that there are homemade 25-mile-an-hour signs on Depot Street, I wondered if these would be replaced by official signs.
There is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign on Depot Street going towards the school. There isn't one coming back. That's the one that's missing.
But we're thinking
There's a
about putting
homemade
one in.
one outside the Valentines.
When we put these signs up, these radar signs, will have another sign that below it that says like 25 miles an hour. So yes.
Thank you.
Bob?
I'm the culprit who put the 25-mile-an-hour signs up on our property. Just to add to what else has been out there and stuff, so to help people slow down. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, but you're right. You need to have the official 25-mile-an-hour speed zone signs. The one that's by the White House across from Andy's, it's very hard because you don't see it until you're right on top of it and stuff. It may have to be relocated, maybe further up Main Street. But there is one also across from the library by Dora Dukes. And that one is just as you come off 30th, right there all of a sudden. So probably having them placed in the proper location we find. I took the other two that I had on my property down because they're all wet and no good anyways, but it was just something to add to everybody else's concerns.
Well, honestly, people can put whatever signs they want on their lawn as long as they're not in the way of the road, no matter what they say.
It complies with the sign ordinance as well.
Right. Those little political signs or whatever, those are
Temporary
in
sign.
compliance.
Can't be permanent.
All right. Well, thank you, Hazel. All right. Any other public concerns? Hi.
Hi. My name is John Began, And
Hi,
this is a
John.
Hamilton Falls issue. Is this the right time?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if the Jamaica Select Board could write a letter to Ethan Phelps about the overcrowding and public safety issues up here at Hamilton Falls. Could the board write an official letter supporting everyone's efforts?
Yes. I had talked to the clerk or Terry because I remember you at the last meeting, and I think I'd like to, or I'd like to have the town of Jamaica take some credit, but this letter that we got from Ethan Phelps, I'd be glad to send a copy of it to you, that they are addressing your concerns.
Uh-huh.
I'd be glad to make sure that a copy of that got to you, because the Windham Select Board, it was addressed to the Windham Select Board and the Jamaica Select Board. And I don't think on our end, we made an official request from them, but they sent us this letter, you know, with a lot of information of what's being done now.
Okay.
Well, we could write another letter, but this, to me, seems like they've already responded.
Okay.
And then some.
Yeah. Yes.
With a contract, the Forest Service is keeping an eye on things, and you know, I'm sure, I can't speak for them, but I'm sure the state police get some calls. So, but if you would like the clerk or one of us to send you a copy of this or email you one, I'd be glad to see that you get one.
Okay, that would be great. Should I send you our email? Should I email you?
To our clerk, I guess.
Yeah.
Town clerk at jamaicavermont.org is her address.
Okay. And I wanted to add a comment to what Jessica brought up earlier about what Sheriff Anderson says to the deputies. And that is that the Jamaica Town Ordinance also prohibits cars from parking in the town's right-of-way. So it's not only blocking the road, but if those 5 or 6 parking spaces that are now allowed are filled, then the deputy shouldn't tell people that they can just pull off perpendicular to the road in the right-of-way. If the sheriff could get that message from you too, that would be wonderful.
I agree. That's why I do think we need to follow up with some more precise direction for the sheriff, and that he can communicate to the deputies. I agree entirely. And Charlie Peck, in his inimitable way, has given me all of us on the board the blueprint. So we need to just distill that down for the sheriff. I agree.
Thank you very much. And one last thing. Ethan is trying to organize a meeting up here. Ethan is the regional director of Forest Parks and Recreation. His office is in North Springfield.
Ethan Phelps.
Ethan Phelps.
Right. That's who the letter's from.
Right. So he's trying to organize a meeting that would also, I think, include the commissioner of the state parks. His name might be Nick McEwen. Don't quote me on that. And Ethan sent us an email. You may have received a copy, asking if the Jamaica Select Board could select at least one person who could come to that meeting.
Sure.
One or more, yeah. If you could appoint one or more of you who would, once we find out when the meeting is, who would be willing to come up to it.
Sure. I'd be glad to do it. I'd like to be in on that. I would be willing to be one of the participants.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
We really
Bob?
appreciate you. Yeah.
Just to add to that, I would also like the fire department to be included, as well as Rescue Inc. representative, because we have to handle emergencies up there. And I'd like to be in on that meeting if we could be included on that also.
Excellent.
Is Stuart Barker still our Rescue Inc. rep? I think so. I think he is.
Yeah, I believe he is.
I think he is still
Okay.
with the Rescue Inc. though.
I think he's our rep for Jamaica.
If not, we can go through Alexa.
Okay, well, when it comes to fruition, when we hear, how will we hear that? Will we hear that from Mr., where did he go?
Mr. Felt?
I think Ethan Phelps will tell us, and then we
Yes,
can let all of you know.
thank you. Okay, are there any other public concerns?
I had my old home day. If we're done with Pikes Falls, I want to give the public some time to talk if they're not done.
Well, Hamilton Falls, but yeah, we might have to talk about Pikes Falls, but go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
So I was approached by Ann Brower today about from Jamaica Old Home Day. She said she was going to try to make the meeting, but she didn't. She had an idea of having some live music bands play, basically shutting down Water Street, blocking it off for a couple hours, and have like Luminous Crush and Andy, Avery, and some other local bands potentially set up on my property, which is of course the first house after that townland, and then allow people to kind of spread out on the green there. There's a little bit of green strip there that Peter Anders mows, but there's the road there, and people could be on the other side too, and just kind of have a little concert as part of Jamaica Old Home Day, because obviously we're not doing a larger event. So I told her, well, if she couldn't make the meeting tonight, that I would bring this before the board to see if we'd be willing to support that, because it would be probably getting the sheriff in to block the road and close the roads, or at least getting some horses to block the roads and just put signs that say this road is closed. But just a couple hours, bring the community together. I support it. I'm offering my electricity in my driveway up as the stage. So, but again, just wanted to bring it before the board, see if you guys are interested in supporting something like that. Bob?
My only concern is a COVID-19 issue about distancing, social distancing, and that.
Right.
We're gonna have to come up with some kind of a plan to handle all that.
Well, I think, her plan was that it would be distanced, and I don't know if it would be possible to mow a little, if we weed whacked into that park there, whatever we want to call it, a little more, and mowed that down. It'd be a little more green space, at least, that people could set up on. But yeah, the goal is, in her eyes, that people would be socially distanced, that it wouldn't be packed in. Like I say, it's their idea. I'm not. I think it'd be fun, but again, I'm just bringing it before the board because she's not here.
What is the time frame you're talking about?
I don't know when she was talking. I don't have that. I'm not part of Old Home Day committee, so I have no idea.
I think someone from the Old Home Committee should be helping Tom out here.
Completely agree, and unfortunately, no one's here. So I will take that back to her and say, someone needs to come to a meeting, and we can talk about it next week. I heard the date of the 12th thrown around, but I don't know where that came from.
And Paul, where did you seem to be very on top of these regs? Where does it stand in terms of the governor's restrictions on crowd size? Are we still?
He's just made some adjustments so that as long as, if you're outside, which is what he's talking about,
Okay.
I think you can do like 50 people right now.
Oh, okay.
Inside, I think it's like 25.
Right.
Yeah, but 50, I mean, if we're talking about a concert, 50, it's like be more than 50 people there, more than likely.
We are talking about
especially if it's right in the village, huh?
Right. That's what I.
Jamaica concert.
Yeah, but if it's right in the village and people haven't been out for a long time, I think we'd get a lot of people to come. And Luminous Crest is well known, and Andy's well known, and so maybe 50. I don't know if we could keep it under 50. What, first come, first serve? I mean, how do you work that out?
Well, therein lies part of the difficulty, is policing it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. Like, take a look at what's going on with the parties, the college parties that are going up all around the country. There's no ability to police it.
Yeah.
If we got a mob down here, then and masks are optional, which they're not, according to the governor.
Okay. Well, what I would tell Ann is we have some COVID concerns, and they need to come and make their case to the board.
Yes,
Some
ask
kind
her.
of
I brought
plan.
it up so the board's aware of it, but we weren't going to make any decisions without an official representative of Jamaica Old Home Day coming and talking to us. So how does that work for everyone?
In general, I'm in favor of the concert idea. Having said that, I can't see how we could possibly police it. So when she comes, she should bring with her the plan that they have for controlling that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, because it's not really a town thing. They get money. They're their own entity, so to speak. They're commission in the town that gets funded. I think it's $2,500 or $3,500. I forget what it is. So they have money for police or whatever they would need to do. And, and then it's just setting up how it would actually work. If you'd have to actually kind of have, okay, here are these pods. But again, you're talking like 10 or 12 pods of, here's your pod where you can have 5 people, kind of like what they did at Leland and Gate graduation. Everyone had a pod. You go in the pod with your unit, but you can't interact with the other pods. And, it was successful, but it was highly controlled. People coming in and out, lots of volunteer organizers and stuff. So if you're doing a concert, I don't know how realistic it is.
Okay. All right. Any other public concerns? All right. Are we all good with the pay
Meg
orders?
Gonzalez.
Meg,
Meg
wait,
Gonzalez
Meg.
has her hand up.
Oh,
I don't have a concern. I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Meg. I'm the new director of West River Valley Thrives. And I have new staff. And for those of you who don't know us, we are basically a prevention coalition. We deal with a lot of substance misuse education for families and youth. We have an office in Leland and Gray. And the organization's been around for, I don't know, almost 7 years now, and lots of great programming. Most of it's been out of Leland and Gray and in Townsend. And so I have new staff, and we are just starting a listening tour. We're coming out to all of the other towns we serve, which is basically the Windham Central Supervisory Union. And just want to let you all know that we're here. We want to help the families, especially in these challenging times. We want to support the communities and what you all are doing. And so hopefully you'll be seeing our faces, if not on your Zoom meetings in town when there are opportunities. I do just have a comment about these concerts. Saxon's River had one not too long ago with a VSO concert. And also tonight, Newfane was trying a concert, and they were going to be creating these 8-foot pods for their people. So if you all know somebody in Newfane, you might want to check with them and see how that went.
Dover did one yesterday too. The Wild Night, whatever. They had a concert yesterday in Dover outside. I didn't go to it, but yeah. So they must. So there's a formula out there, right?
Thank you, Meg.
Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Meg.
It's nice to see you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Who's saying no?
No, you can't.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. I retract. Thank you. I'll retract.
I just need you to approve. I don't know if you looked at the tax rate, but the municipal rate is 0.4240 for 2020.
Terry, what was was there a change over 2019?
Yeah, the 2019 was 0.4297. So the municipal rate went down by 0.0057. A half a cent. Now, I do have the non-resident rate for school. That's the only one I have for school right now. And that has gone up by 6 cents. But you don't have to approve that because that's a state rate. So.
And we still haven't heard. When do you expect to hear the tax rate for school for residents?
Well, it was supposed to be there today, and it was supposed to be there last Tuesday and the Tuesday before that. So
I know I came in looking for my tax bill, and you're like, nope.
Please don't. No, please don't.
I don't want mine.
I have to have the bills in the mail by the 1st of September in order to hit the October 1st date. So if I don't, I may have to come back to you to push the date out into October a little more. Because of COVID, you're allowed to do that even though it's a voted due date. I'm hoping that we don't have to do that because I'd hate to push it any further out, but I just want to get this all set so that when I do get that homestead rate, and it better be tomorrow or somebody's going to hear something from me because this is ridiculous. So
I'll make a motion to accept the 2020 total resident tax rate at 0.4240. Is that right? Did I say that right?
0.4240, yeah.
Yeah, 0.4240.
And you include the non-resident rate as well?
We don't need to, we
No,
don't,
It's
you,
dictated by state.
you are, the municipal rate is the only one that you have to approve.
Right.
The state rates are what they are.
did you second that, Jessica?
Yes, I did.
Is there any more discussion about that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None? Okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right,
Yes.
we're all in favor of that probably.
All righty.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, everyone.
for running the
Thanks,
meeting.
guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
See you, Rich. Rich, I'll get this stuff to you by tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, okay,
I'll get you
great.
the stuff
Thank
tomorrow
you.
morning.
See you later, Rich.
Good night,